LeBron James sees his childhood best friend working a minimum wage job. What happens next? No one expected. LeBron James had just finished his morning workout at one of his private training facilities, the adrenaline still coursing through his veins as he wrapped up the session. As always, he was surrounded by his dedicated team, but today, something felt different. He had a rare day off from basketball, an opportunity to visit Akron, the city where he grew up, the city that shaped him into the man he was now. It wasn't a trip he often took. He had moved on to bigger things long ago, and his visits back to Akron had become less frequent over the years. But today, he wanted to take a step back, reflect, and revisit the places and faces that had been such a significant part of his early life. Driving through the familiar streets, LeBron felt the weight of his childhood. The memories came rushing back as he passed by his old school, the parks where he spent countless hours playing basketball, and the humble neighborhoods that still felt like home to him. Even though his life had taken him to places far beyond what he could have imagined back then, Akron was always with him. His phone buzzed, snapping him out of his thoughts. It was a message from one of his childhood friends, Marcus Taylor, someone LeBron hadn't seen in years. The message was short but familiar. "Hey man, I'm working at the old diner down on 5th Street. Swing by if you're in town." LeBron's heart skipped a beat. Marcus. His best friend from his early days in Akron. They'd spent hours together on the courts, dreaming of one day making it to the NBA. They had both been ambitious, driven, and inseparable until life began to pull them in different directions. While LeBron soared to fame, Marcus's life had taken a much different, harder path. LeBron hadn't heard from Marcus in years, and the thought of reconnecting with his old friend stirred something inside him. He hadn't planned on seeing anyone today, but something about Marcus's message made him feel that it was the right time. As LeBron parked his car in front of the diner, he looked at the small, familiar building. It had been a regular stop for him and Marcus when they were kids. Back then, they would come here after long days of playing basketball, grabbing a bite to eat and talking about their dreams. Now, the diner seemed smaller than he remembered, the exterior faded and weathered by the years. LeBron took a deep breath and stepped out of the car. The bell above the door jingled as he entered, and the familiar smell of coffee and fried food immediately greeted him. The diner was mostly empty except for a few patrons sitting at the counter. Behind the counter, standing in a white apron, was Marcus. LeBron's footsteps slowed as he saw his childhood friend, the same man who had once been his basketball partner, now standing behind the counter, working a minimum wage job. For a moment, he couldn't quite process what he was seeing. Marcus had always been full of ambition, full of life. To see him here, in this place, so far from where they had once dreamed of going, was a shock to LeBron. "Marcus?" LeBron's voice cracked slightly as he called out, still standing in the doorway, unsure if his friend would recognize him. Marcus looked up from the grill, his eyes squinting at first in confusion. Then, recognition dawned. A broad smile spread across his face, and for a moment, it seemed like nothing had changed between them. The years, the distance, the different paths their lives had taken, it all seemed to fade away in that instant. "LeBron? Is that really you?" Marcus said, his voice filled with surprise and something deeper, maybe a bit of disbelief. He wiped his hands on his apron before walking over to where LeBron stood. They shook hands, and for a few moments, neither of them knew what to say. The years of silence between them felt heavy now, as they stood there in the small diner, looking at each other with a mix of nostalgia and unspoken questions. "What are you doing here, man?" Marcus asked, breaking the silence first. "I didn't think you'd even remember this old place." LeBron smiled, trying to shake off the unease he felt. "Of course I remember. It's been a long time, though. I just wanted to come back, see some old faces, you know? Akron's always been home." Marcus nodded slowly, but there was a noticeable sadness behind his eyes. "Yeah, Akron doesn't change much." "You're right about that." LeBron looked at him, studying his friend's face more closely. Marcus had always been full of energy, of dreams. But now, the lines on his face seemed deeper, his shoulders heavier. The bright, confident young man LeBron had once known seemed to have faded into something more worn, more defeated. "I didn't expect to find you working here," LeBron said, his voice laced with concern. "You were always going to make it big, Marcus. What happened?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably, glancing down at the counter before looking back at LeBron. "Life happened, I guess. You know how it is. Things don't always go the way we plan. You know you can't control everything." LeBron took a step closer. "You don't have to do this, man. You don't have to stay here. I know it's been tough, but He paused, not wanting to overstep, but feeling an overwhelming urge to help. But Marcus cut him off, his tone defensive. "I'm fine, LeBron. I'm not here to make excuses. I've got my job, I've got a place to stay. I don't need you fixing things for me. You've done enough already. You made it. I didn't. That's the way it is." The words hit LeBron harder than he expected. There was no anger in Marcus's voice, just a resignation, a sense of giving up. LeBron knew that Marcus had always been proud. And that pride, which had once been a strength, now seemed to be the very thing standing in the way of him accepting help. LeBron felt a knot form in his stomach, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He hadn't expected this reunion to feel so heavy, so full of unspoken tension. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The noise of the diner, the clink of cups, the low hum of the television in the corner, faded into the background as LeBron's mind raced. He had been given so many opportunities, so much success. But seeing Marcus, his old friend, working here, stuck in a life that didn't match the dreams they once shared, made him realize just how much he had taken for granted. Finally, LeBron broke the silence, his voice softer now. "I don't know what happened, Marcus, but I want to help. You're my best friend, and I can't just walk away from that. Let me help you get back on your feet." Marcus shook his head slowly, the skepticism and pride clear in his eyes. "I don't need help, LeBron. I've got this. I've always had this." LeBron sighed, but he wasn't about to give up. "We'll see about that," he muttered, more to himself than to Marcus. As the conversation lingered, LeBron's mind was already turning. There had to be something he could do. For the first time in a long time, he realized that his success wasn't just about himself anymore, it was about the people who had helped him along the way. And right now, Marcus was the one who needed him the most. The following days after the reunion weighed heavily on LeBron. He found himself revisiting his memories of Akron more frequently, his thoughts constantly drifting back to Marcus, his childhood friend, and the life they had shared. As much as he wanted to find a solution to the situation, he couldn't shake the feeling that their paths had diverged so drastically, and the reason behind it troubled him. The bustling streets of Akron were now a distant echo in his mind, and his journey had taken him so far from where he started. LeBron had already achieved unimaginable success, wealth, and fame, but as he sat in the solitude of his mansion, looking out over the city, he realized how little he had thought about Marcus and the bond they once had. It wasn't always supposed to be this way. LeBron's mind drifted back to the early days of their friendship, the long summer afternoons spent shooting hoops on cracked courts, the shared dreams of playing professional basketball, and the unbreakable bond they had formed. LeBron smiled as the memories flooded back. They were inseparable back then, both driven by the same goal. Every free moment was spent practicing, with Marcus by his side, feeding him the ball, pushing him harder, and talking about the future with an optimism that seemed endless. Those were the days before the pressure, the cameras, and the fame. It was just two friends with one shared dream, to make it out of Akron and into the world of professional basketball. He remembered the countless nights they spent at Buckle High School, running drills on the basketball court, pushing each other to their limits. Marcus had always been the one who kept LeBron grounded, the one who reminded him of their shared dream. While LeBron's natural talent was evident, it was Marcus who helped him refine his game, taking no credit for it but always standing by his side. But while LeBron's career had exploded with success, Marcus had struggled. The two friends, once so connected, had begun to drift apart. When LeBron moved to the NBA, the two stayed in touch for a while. Marcus would send encouraging texts, and LeBron would reply with gratitude, but soon, the demands of LeBron's career began to take up all his time, and the calls became less frequent. Marcus, still in Akron, faced personal and financial struggles that LeBron never knew about. It wasn't long before Marcus's aspirations shifted. He'd always dreamed of playing professionally, but without the resources and the support that LeBron had, it felt like that dream was slipping away. LeBron's success, which had once been their shared dream, now felt like a reminder of his own failure. While LeBron had the world at his feet, Marcus was left behind, struggling with the realities of life that often didn't care about dreams. But despite everything, Marcus had remained steadfast in his pride. He never asked LeBron for help, even when it seemed clear that he needed it. He wanted to prove that he could make it on his own, the same way LeBron had done. And for a while, LeBron believed that Marcus was doing just fine, that he had found his own way, just as LeBron had. But that belief had faded the more time passed. LeBron had been busy, too busy. He had risen to the heights of fame, built his brand, and become a global icon. He had forgotten the people who had helped him get there, the ones who had seen potential in him when he couldn't see it himself. And Marcus had been one of those people. Sitting in the silence of his mansion, LeBron's guilt weighed on him. He thought about the last time they had really spoken. It had been years ago, after one of his big wins in the NBA. Marcus had sent him a simple congratulatory message, and LeBron had responded. But since then, nothing. No calls. No check-ins. No letters. He just assumed Marcus was doing fine, that he was living his life like everyone else. But now, seeing Marcus at the diner, LeBron realized how wrong he had been. It wasn't just about money or fame, it was about their friendship. LeBron had assumed Marcus was living a quiet life, content with the choices he had made. But now, LeBron knew the truth, Marcus hadn't just stayed behind. He had stayed stuck. And that was something LeBron couldn't accept. He had to do something. He had to fix it, not because Marcus was a failure, but because Marcus deserved more. More than just the scraps of a life he was living. More than just the simple job behind a counter. LeBron sat forward in his chair, a new sense of purpose flooding through him. He couldn't just walk away. He couldn't pretend that Marcus's life was fine when it clearly wasn't. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy, and Marcus might resist his help, but LeBron was determined to make things right. Flashback to a memory with Marcus. The gymnasium at Buckle High was crowded with kids practicing, laughing, and dreaming of a future on the court. LeBron and Marcus were in the corner, their sneakers squeaking on the polished wood as they ran through one last set of drills before the day ended. "Come on, LeBron. You're getting too cocky out there," Marcus teased, standing in front of the basket, waiting for the next pass. LeBron grinned, a competitive spark in his eyes. "Oh, come on, you can't keep up with me now," he said with a playful shrug, throwing a perfect pass that Marcus caught effortlessly. "You know," Marcus said with a smile, "you've got the talent. I've seen it from the first day. But what you've got to realize is, it's not just about talent. It's about work. You put in the hours, and you make your dream happen." LeBron nodded, his focus intense as he sank another shot. "I know, Marcus. You've always been the one to keep me grounded. I can't forget that." Marcus clapped LeBron on the back, his voice filled with confidence. "And you won't forget it. I know you'll make it. But no matter where you go, never forget where you came from." LeBron looked over at Marcus, his best friend, the one who had stood by him every step of the way. And for the first time in a long time, he promised himself that he wouldn't. Back to the present. LeBron leaned back in his chair, a deep breath escaping his lips. He realized now that Marcus hadn't given up on their shared dream, they had just taken different paths. And while LeBron had walked into the limelight, Marcus had been left in the shadows, battling his own demons. But it wasn't too late. It couldn't be. Not for Marcus. And not for their friendship. LeBron grabbed his phone, ready to make the call that would set everything in motion. This time, he wouldn't wait. He would help Marcus, not just as a way to make amends, but because it was what his best friend deserved. LeBron couldn't stop thinking about Marcus. The diner, the awkward reunion, and the haunting realization that his childhood friend was stuck in a life that felt far removed from the dreams they had shared. But LeBron couldn't let it end there. He knew Marcus well enough to understand that his pride would prevent him from asking for help, but LeBron wasn't about to give up on him. The next day, LeBron made his way back to the diner. He wasn't sure what he would say this time, but he knew he couldn't just leave it at that fleeting conversation. He had to offer more than just words. Marcus deserved more than that. As he walked through the door of the small diner again, the familiar bell chimed, signaling his entrance. This time, Marcus wasn't behind the counter. LeBron looked around, scanning the room, until he saw his old friend sitting at one of the booths, his back turned to the door. His casual, yet weary posture was unmistakable. LeBron hesitated for a moment before walking over and sitting across from Marcus. Marcus looked up, his expression guarded, but there was a faint trace of recognition in his eyes. They both stared at each other for a long beat, the tension between them palpable. LeBron noticed how different Marcus looked now, his face weathered, his eyes tired, as though the weight of life had settled in more deeply than LeBron had anticipated. "Hey, Marcus," LeBron said softly, his voice sincere but firm. Marcus's eyes flickered for a moment before he let out a slow exhale, pushing the mug of coffee aside. "LeBron. Didn't expect to see you back so soon." LeBron gave a small smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. He wasn't here for pleasantries. "I've been thinking a lot about our conversation. And I realized I didn't make myself clear." Marcus arched an eyebrow. "Clear about what?" LeBron took a deep breath. "I don't want to just drop by and offer a handout, Marcus. I'm not here to fix your problems for you. I just want to help you find a way back to what you're capable of." Marcus's expression hardened, and he sat back in his seat, crossing his arms defensively. "LeBron, I'm fine. I don't need your help. I've been doing just fine. I've got a job. I've got everything I need right here. You've made it big, I get it. But I don't need to be rescued. I'm not some charity case." LeBron felt a pang of frustration but didn't let it show. He knew Marcus's pride was his biggest obstacle. "I'm not saying you're a charity case, Marcus. I'm saying you have more to offer than this." LeBron gestured around the diner. "More than a minimum wage job. More than just getting by. You were always one of the smartest, most driven people I knew. You still have that in you, man." Marcus looked away, his gaze fixed on the coffee mug in front of him. His jaw tightened as if fighting back something deeper. "You don't understand. You were always the one with the future. You were always the one who had everything lined up for him. I didn't get that lucky. I didn't get the same breaks you did. So, yeah, I'm here. But I've accepted it, LeBron. I've made peace with it." LeBron leaned in, his tone growing more earnest. "I don't think you've made peace with it. You've settled, Marcus. And I know you don't want to hear that. But I can't just sit by and let you stay in this place. You're better than that." Marcus's eyes finally met his, but there was an edge to them, painful, defensive. "I'm not you, LeBron. I never had what you had. I don't have the skills, the resources, the luck. You were always destined for greatness. Me? I'm just here. You don't get it, man. I've been trying for years, and nothing ever sticks. I'm tired." The weight of Marcus's words hit LeBron harder than he expected. He had never fully understood the depths of Marcus's struggle, the way his friend had tried and failed, the way he had seen his own dreams slip through his fingers. LeBron had been so focused on his own rise that he hadn't considered how his success might have left Marcus behind. He had never asked himself why Marcus had stayed in Akron, why he hadn't made the same leap that LeBron had. LeBron paused, searching for the right words. Marcus, I'm not asking you to be me. I'm not asking you to be something you're not. But you don't have to keep fighting this alone. We had dreams, remember? We said we were going to make it big, together. A painful silence stretched between them. Marcus's gaze softened, but he didn't say anything. LeBron could see the internal battle playing out in his friend's eyes, and he knew that the decision to accept help wasn't going to be easy. But LeBron wasn't ready to walk away just yet. I'm not here to fix you, Marcus, LeBron said quietly. I'm here to offer you a chance to find something again. Something bigger than this. We can do this together. Let me help you get back on your feet. Let me help you find something that excites you again. Marcus looked down at his hands, his fingers fidgeting with the edge of his napkin. I don't even know where to start. Everything I've tried, it hasn't worked. Maybe I was never meant to be anything bigger. LeBron's heart sank, but he refused to back down. That's where you're wrong. You've always been bigger than you think. You helped me get here. You shaped who I am, Marcus. And if you can believe in me, just like you did back then, I know you can find your way again. Marcus finally met LeBron's gaze, and for the first time in their conversation, there was a flicker of hope in his eyes. But it was quickly replaced by doubt. You really think I can do that? LeBron smiled, his confidence unwavering. I know you can. There was a long pause, and then Marcus let out a sigh. I don't know, LeBron. It's a lot to ask. I'm not asking you to do it alone, LeBron said, his voice firm but compassionate. I'm asking you to give it a shot. Together. Let's figure it out. Marcus stared at him for a long moment, the weight of the decision clearly weighing heavily on him. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he spoke quietly, his voice a mix of hesitation and hope. All right, LeBron. Let's see what we can do. LeBron's heart lifted as he leaned back in his seat, a sense of relief washing over him. The conversation hadn't been easy, and it wasn't over. But this was a start. The next step would be figuring out how to help Marcus rebuild, not just his life, but his belief in himself. As they sat there together in the diner, the future felt uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it felt like the possibility of something greater was within reach. LeBron left the diner that day with a weight lifted from his chest. Marcus's reluctant acceptance was the first step. LeBron knew it wouldn't be easy. Rebuilding a life wasn't something that happened overnight. But it was something. It was a beginning, a way forward. Over the next few weeks, LeBron reached out to his network, gathering resources for Marcus. He wasn't going to force Marcus into anything. He wanted to offer opportunities, not commands. But one thing was clear, he had to help Marcus find a sense of purpose again. A way to reignite that spark of ambition that had always been there, just buried under the weight of life's disappointments. Marcus, on the other hand, was still grappling with his own feelings of failure. Every time LeBron suggested something new, whether it was getting back into coaching, helping with LeBron's youth basketball program, or even working on physical training again, Marcus hesitated. He still carried a heavy burden of self-doubt, something LeBron hadn't fully realized before. The rejection of the past, the years of feeling left behind, had taken its toll on Marcus's spirit. But LeBron wasn't going to give up on him. He knew that helping Marcus meant going deeper than just offering him a paycheck or a job. It was about restoring his sense of dignity and value. And so, LeBron did something unexpected. He took Marcus back to the place where they had started, the basketball court. One afternoon, after a particularly intense training session for LeBron's program, he invited Marcus to come down to the gym. It wasn't a formal meeting, no agenda, just a simple gesture to rekindle the fire that had once burned so brightly between them. When Marcus walked into the gym, it was as if time had rewound itself. The familiar sound of basketballs bouncing, the whir of sneakers on the hardwood floor, the same smell of leather and sweat, they all felt like memories of another life, another time. The days when it was just him and LeBron, practicing late into the night, dreaming of the future. LeBron passed him a ball as he jogged onto the court. "Remember these days?" he asked, tossing it with a casual smile. Marcus hesitated, looking at the ball for a moment before catching it. Yeah, I remember. You were always the one making the shots, while I kept feeding you the ball. LeBron chuckled. You know, Marcus, you were always better at getting me open than anyone else. You set the stage for me to succeed, every time. You were the real MVP. Marcus shook his head, a small laugh escaping his lips. I don't know about that. Yeah, you do, LeBron insisted. You've just been too busy letting life beat you down to remember it. You set me up, Marcus. You helped me get here. I didn't do this alone. Marcus's eyes softened, but there was still a wariness there. You've done all right for yourself, he muttered, bouncing the ball a few times before taking a shot. The ball swished through the net effortlessly, and LeBron couldn't help but smile at the familiarity of it all. See, you've still got it. The two of them spent the next hour shooting hoops, talking like they used to. It wasn't about coaching or career moves, it was about reconnecting, about finding that rhythm again, the one they had lost along the way. The chemistry was undeniable, just like it had been when they were kids. LeBron, Marcus finally said, breathing heavily from their workout, I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about giving me a chance. I've never been good at accepting help, man. I've always felt like I was supposed to do it on my own. LeBron wiped his face with a towel and sat down on the bleachers, nodding. I get it. I know how you feel. But you don't have to do everything alone. I'm here, and I want to help. This isn't just about you getting a job, Marcus. It's about rediscovering who you are, what you're capable of. Marcus sat beside him, looking down at the floor. I've spent so long just getting by, doing what I needed to survive. I never thought much about anything beyond that. That's because you didn't have the chance, LeBron said quietly. You didn't have someone pushing you. But I'm not asking you to jump into everything at once. Start small. But just know that I've got your back. We can rebuild this, step by step. Marcus exhaled slowly. He hadn't realized how much he missed the camaraderie, the feeling of being part of something bigger. It wasn't about basketball anymore, it was about finding that spark again, the drive that had once fueled his dreams. I don't know if I can ever be the person I was, Marcus said, his voice soft but filled with doubt. I don't think I can go back to what I wanted when I was younger. Life's just different now. LeBron looked at him, his expression serious. Marcus, it's not about going back. It's about moving forward. You might not be the same person you were, but that doesn't mean you're any less capable. You're here now, and that's all that matters. Marcus sat in silence for a while, absorbing LeBron's words. A part of him wanted to believe it, but the other part, the part that had been hurt and disappointed for so long, wasn't sure how to move past all the years of regret and missed opportunities. LeBron stood up, offering Marcus his hand. Come on, let's get back to work. You don't have to do this alone anymore. We'll figure this out together. Marcus looked at LeBron's outstretched hand, hesitation written all over his face. But then, with a deep breath, he took it. The grip was firm, like a promise, a commitment to something that neither of them could see yet, but both knew was worth fighting for.